Hello, this video is a compilation of all the videos about Weapons of Starsector. Sit down and enjoy. Starsector has what we love: exploration, leveling up, earning money. It also has, like Ashley Graham,
ballistics too.
How rude!
Low tech. Too many the best tech has biggest ballistics. And like you, I like myself some of those. So why not make a video about them? Or rather should I say, hello, I'm the Steel Merchant. I've already done videos about ships of Starsector from every tech. Why not do a video on weapons? After all, ships are only as good as weapons used by them. I will begin with ballistics, and just like with ships, I will begin with the smallest and end with the largest. This will not be a tier list. I will simply read the descriptions of all ships, full of all weapons, and add some of my comments on them, be it speculation, lore, or simply my opinions on them. There are a few categories of damage in Starsector: fragmentation, kinetic, explosive, and energy. Fragmentation weapons do a lot of DPS to hull, however only 25% to armor and shields. Kinetic do high damage to shields, but half damage to armor and hull. This is the damage type most common among ballistics weapons. Explosive damage obviously does extreme damage to armor. Energy damage is a jack of all trades, doing equal damage to all. There's only one ballistic weapon with this type of damage. Without any further ado, let's begin with the ballistics. Small ballistics. Vulcan Cannon, a rapid fire weapon that is especially devastating to missiles and fighters at point blank range. Accuracy degrades sharply during prolonged bursts. An advanced timing mechanism beats in the heart of this multi-barreled weapon platform. Generally manufactured by only licensed hegemony auto factories, rounds typically use depleted uranium tips and are non-explosive. Multiple barrels enable an extremely high rate of fire, which comes at a cost in flux. A fragmentation point defense weapon, an affordable weapon best used in high amount for best effect. Light machine gun, a venerable low-cost, readily available rapid-fire weapon which has been used effectively versus missiles and fighters at short range throughout the history of combat in space. It is nearly useless versus properly armored targets. Due to ease of manufacture, hundreds of models exist in the sector. Any weapon that employs chemical propellant to fire inert projectiles at over 1,200 rounds per minute can be classified as light ship-mounted machine gun. But beyond that, the mechanisms that drive the actions of those weapons vary considerably. Popular with small civilian craft due to low-cost ammunition, projectiles jacked with metals that have a high melting point allow great velocity and deliver a surprisingly large amount of kinetic energy at close range. A kinetic point defense weapon with low DPS but affordable in price and points. Light dual machine gun, an upgraded twin-barrel version of the venerable light machine gun, not effective against armored targets but as excellent in anti-missile and fighter roles since the dawn of human space combat. This is a dual mount with the same rapid-fire, inert, low-caliber chemical projectile, that chemical projectile weapon known to every pilot in the sector. An excellent point defense mount, which excels in both a missile interdiction and anti-fighter role. The large amount of kinetic energy delivered to shield systems of enemy craft at close range typically causes emitter overload, a tactical option often overlooked by inexperienced captains. A more accurate kinetic version of Vulcan Cannon used for point defense, the double machine gun. Light autocannon, a small caliber autocannon with a good range for a light weapon, designed to weaken enemy shields, especially effective against weaker generators. Usually manufactured with small bores perfect for medium to long range, the weapon fires high velocity kinetic rounds designed to overload enemy shields with ease, features an autoloader and is liquid cooled. Excellent fire support weapon for smaller craft. Poor mount burn rate makes it a bad choice versus fighters and missiles. Inaccurate but cheap weapon. Like all kinetics, it's a weapon against shields. Like dual autocannon, a double-barreled version of light AC, an excellent weapon for close range support and quite effective at bringing shields down. Usually manufactured with small bores perfect for medium to long range. An ingeniously elegant mechanical design prevents ejection ports from being jammed, while expelling twice as many spent shells casings as the standard chassis. Like the single barrel version, the weapon fires high velocity rounds designed to punch through enemy shields. Autoloader and liquid cooling systems are identical to the single barrel version. More costly version of LAC, Railgun, a high-tech improvement of the autocannon. The Railgun fires accurate medium-range slugs. Like the AC, it excels at overwhelming enemy shield generators, a miniaturized version of the Gauss cannon. The Railgun relies on strong magnetic field to fire shells at high velocities. The accuracy and range are excellent, and the turret is able to rotate quickly while not firing. The railgun is preferred to the autocannon by gunnery officers that have ample Fuchs capacity at their disposal. A costly weapon with good DPS and accuracy. Light Needler fires bursts of small flechettes at high rate of fire. The volume of fire can quickly overwhelm shield projectors, but is generally ineffective against armor. A Light Needler is a small bore flechette gun designed to fire caseless ammunition. Features an impressive feed system which can deliver hundreds of needles per second. There is no need for an ejector system, and the resulting space availability is instead used to provide additional cooling units, vastly enhancing the rate of fire. Domain naval doctrine holds that the weapon is to be used on enemy shields at long range, but in a pinch, gunnery officers will train their needlers on enemy fighter wings and long-range missile threats. The gold if it comes to destroying shields. Absolutely great weapon, known to all, quick with good range. Light Assault Gun, a small caliber cannon designed for close range fights, excellent versus armor and with a superb fire rate. Small caliber cannon designed to fire high explosive rounds. Design of the coolant system and autoloader emphasizes safety and prevention of cook-off potentially caused by high flux levels, favored by destroyer captains that have something to prove. Cheap explosive projectiles. What's there not to love about it? Well, it's small and so its anti-armor damage isn't that great. Light Mortar, an antiquated weapon that fires anti-armor rounds at low rate of fire, muzzle facility and range. Its low flux buildup is a lone saving grace. The weapon blueprints for Light Mortar actually did not intend them for spacecraft at all, but an ingenious modification to the bridge loading mechanism permits installation and use outside an atmospheric environment. In combat, there is little the Light Mortar can do versus moving targets or shielded targets due to its terrible mount rotation and rate of fire. Nonetheless, it is often used for training novice gunnery officers in finer points of space, ballistic tactics and nomenclature. Commonly fitted on private yachts and solo interplanetary vehicles because it is so light and cheap. An old weapon, well past its age, but Sector is a state where present, future and the past meet one another in battle. Light Mortar has to be used if nothing else is available, if people like it or not. Standard Bomb Bay, a tried and tested weapon system. The bomb bay holds multiple warheads that rely on velocity of the launching craft to reach their target. Each bomb bay is equipped with several non-guided high-explosive Pump-X bombs that can be released one at a time. The bombs have an propulsion system and are dependent on the velocity of launching craft to carry them to target. VI dive bombing. Atmospheric shielding instincts to the design also give the bombs a high time to live in a hostile point defense environment. An old system used by Piranha bomber fighters. Slow, once shot travels only forward, still it's explosive. Once again, the far past has been revived in the Persian sector. Now, onto the medium-sized ballistics. Thumper, a rotary cannon with generous engineering specifications, which provide for great ease of operation and reliability. Weapons officers across the professional navies of the sector, meanwhile, cures the Thumper for rewarding poor maintenance habits. I love this weapon, a fragmentation DPS powerhouse which shreds hull. It's underrated in my opinion. From what we can read in the description, it's reliable as hell, and professionals hate it because it teaches new recruits a wrong lesson. Thumper is a Toyota of weapons, never breaking. Other weapons aren't this reliable, remember. Flak Cannon, a defensive weapon system that fires shrapnel-filled shells equipped with proximity fuse for maximum effect against fighters and missiles. The rising prominence of small, cheap fighter craft, especially in strike role, led to a wider deployment of these weapons systems in the heady days pre-collapse. Fires ballistic rounds fitted with a proximity fuse. The resulting explosion sends a hail of flechettes in a wide area, with a respectable kill radius versus standard targets. Newer models feature a fire control system hardwired into a Mark 6 Predicutor. Fragmentation area of defense weapon, great against missiles and fighters, although with a slow fire rate. Like with most point defense, its true value is hidden, as people look at damage dealing weapons more, me included. Dual Flak Cannon, an upgraded, viciously effective dual mount of the Flak Cannon, nicknamed the Widowmaker for its ability to tear apart incoming fighters. Just like the standard Flak Cannon, this weapon devastates smaller fighters and missile targets, firing 2 approximately fuse-fitted rounds. Shape dispersal ensures dual detonation and a higher kill radius. Fighter craft are rarely launched against ships that are fitted with this weapon system, out of fear of what it can do. Excellent rate of fire and turret turn rate. Flak Cannon, with way more fire rate and double the firepower because it's double it has less range and accuracy as a trade-off. Heavy Machine Gun, a larger cousin of the ubiquitous rapid fire machine gun category of weapons. The heavy MG is effective against both small and medium-sized targets. A workhorse of patrol craft across the sector, this weapon system features reliable blowback firing mechanism said to date back to the days of old Earth. Safety features include a positive cock-off system for open bolt clearing and double run prevention. The weapon is typically mounted on a relatively heavy base to help absorb recoil during prolonged bursts of fire. Calibers vary within a moderate range, and ammunition is easily fabricated by standard forges. The heavier projectiles do not shatter upon impact, like lighter ammunition, and present a credible threat to frigate-class vessels. Extremely accurate, though slower firing than a Vulcan cannon, excels in a point defense role. Ancient kinetic weapon from the days of old Earth. Some weapons stay useful forever. Heavy machine gun is one of them. Easy to make with a long history makes it common in the sector and surely the domain at large. Now a point defense weapon as times move forward gun didn't. Arbalest autocannon, an antiqued weapon designed with hypershot damage for its size. The kinetic shells are especially effective versus enemy shields. Heavier patrol craft at the time of the collapse were mostly fitted with Arbalester Mk1 weapons platform. This likely explains why the Arbalest is claimed to be among the most scavenged ship weapon systems in the sector. The primitive cooling system and lack of auto-ejector hamper rate of fire and relativity. The only redeeming feature is the ambiguity of blueprints for the Arbalest round, which is effective at bringing down enemy shields. The effectiveness of the shells is poorly understood and is suspected to lie in the unintended electromagnetic properties of the shell jackets. A common weapon, flux efficient, but there are better weapons. Once again, an old kinetic weapon which, because of necessity, is still common on the battlefields of the sector. As you listen, you can see that relativity. Because of my fucking dyslexia, I can't read this word. It's so fucking simple. But unintended electromagnetic properties, I can read that. My dyslexia just chooses, oh yeah, here is the easiest fucking word to read. Yeah, you can't do that shit. Here is the hardest fucking word ever. Yeah, you have a easy fucking time. This is how dyslexia works. Yeah, this is how it is. I can do shit about it, I'm sorry. Heavy autocannon. A triple-barreled cannon that fires a burst of standardized shells at medium range. It is most effective versus enemy shields. Medium-caliber triple-barreled autocannon. Typically deployed with medium-bore ammunition. Electrically primed firing fuses ensure precise fire counts. A great fire support weapon, it is typically fitted on destroyer and cruiser class ships. A battery of heavy autocannons with a proper firing solution may pose a serious threat to capital ships. Additional mass necessity to accommodate the complex autoloader and cooling systems result in very poor turn rate. Another common weapon has a low rate of fire and turn rate, a low OP cost compared to other weapons doing its job, but a worse choice. Hyper velocity driver. A specialized weapon designed to overload and disable enemy systems from afar. The high-velocity Duranium Slag is also effective against shields. The hyper-velocity driver uses a two-stage process to accelerate a Duranium Slag with a magnetized iron cobalt core to a very high velocity. A chemical charge accelerates the slag first, then the magnetic coils take over, accelerating the slag further and stabilizing its flight. The slag is highly charged with time it reaches the target, generating a significant amount of electromagnetic interference on the ship it impacts. No trying to sound smart or padding with any more words. I don't use this weapon, that's it. Why? I honestly don't know. Heavy Needler. A dual mount of the light needler with a heavier base. This advanced system is capable of overwhelming shield projectors very quickly. The Heavy Needler is an advanced weapon that fires small flechette rounds. An improvement upon Light Needler, it features better feed and cooling systems, which enable even greater fire rates. Projectors are identical to the light version, caseless ammunition, tungsten-jacked flechettes. GOAT if it comes to destroying shields, a costly weapon that does its job well. A needler indeed, as it nails through shields like butter. The fire rate. Chef's kiss. Assault chain gun. The GAX Industries MK2 assault chain gun excels at close range fighting, where accuracy is less important than overall damage and volume of fire. A melee captain's favorite tool, the assault chain gun delivers high explosive shaped charged rounds on target at nearly 400 shells per minute, features electrically driven feed and ejector systems, and an advanced nano cooling unit built right into the barrel. The only drawback is a heavier turret profile, which, coupled with the lack of accompanying governor blueprint, is typically mounted on incompatible rotators, giving rise to unexpectedly low turret rotation speeds. Standard weapon for destroying armor. Indeed a melee weapon of reckless captains, Thumper's best friend, as it shreds armor with its DPS, allowing Thumper to do its job. Heavy Mortar, an antiqued weapon that fires large anti-armor rounds at somewhat higher rate of fire than its smaller cousin. Projectile speed is low and effective range is short. Its low flux buildup is a lone saving grace. A common weapon, another mortar from an age gone by, brought back by necessity of the chaotic post-collapse world. Heavy Mauler, an advanced weapon system designed to punch through armor plating at long range, has low rate of fire and high per shot damage. A brutal weapon, the Heavy Mauler is designed to engage targets at medium to long range. At its core, the weapon is an autocannon with nano-cooling system and an external ejector port. However, unlike normal autocannons, the Heavy Mauler is distinguished by an antimatter barrel charge feed by trivial amounts of standardized starship fuel. When leaving the firing chamber, each shell ogive is charged with a field of antiprotons which hovers 10 to 20 nanometers in front of the shell. Stabilized by a Brion coating, on impact with a target, its antiproton sheath loses structural integrity and the resulting reaction does further damage. Given the fact that shells already deliver impressive amount of force to the target, the combined reaction makes the heavy mauler practically effective versus armored targets. Damage per hit version instead of a DPS one does the job as intended. Onto the heavy weapons. There aren't any point defense weapons in the large size of ballistics, nor is there any fragmentation weapon in the large size. We need one, Alex. Okay. Now onto the large ballistics. Why did I write it like this? What? Never mind. Mark 9 autocannon. An imposing medium-range autocannon, most effective versus shields. Also obliterates unarmored hoods with large volume of heavy caliber projectiles. It is known that warships of the early epoch of the domain lacked contemporary levels of armor protection. A weapon with a name like the Mark 9 autocannon was probably a refinement of the earliest schools of weapons engineering in the domain. Two barrels combined with a unique double loader system formed the core of the weapon system. The Mark 9 blueprints were first rediscovered in the sector from a drifting derelict captured in the gravity well of Penelope's star. After a hasty examination by an unqualified appraiser, the design was declared obsolete. The blueprint was auctioned off to a small mercenary organization known as the Free Star Combine, a militant subsidiary of the Co-Combine, and forgotten. Cycles later, the Free Star Combine finally built a prototype and began weapon trails. The weapon was deemed too huge, difficult to mount in all but the largest craft. Mediocre at best versus armored targets, and its range was anything but extraordinary. Nonetheless, the Mark 9 stubbornly refused to be explained away by the theorists, as its raw damage output is impressive. The naysayers were quieted even further when secondary tries showed how utterly devastating the Mark 9 autocannon is to shield generators. The result of those tries did not remain secret for long, and the availability of the now common blueprint meant that the Mark 9 was quickly manufactured to meet the demand in the sector. Whew, holy hell, that was a long description. A standard kinetic weapon used by most low-tech ships, common found weapon used by Hegemony and everyone else who uses low-tech ships, inaccurate burst weapon that does its job. Gauss Cannon. A long-range weapon designed to overload the target's shields. The heavy kinetic slag it fires is also effective against all but heaviest armor. Uses magnetic coils to accelerate a large ultra-dense composite slag to realistic speeds, usually rated at the hundreds of gigaamperes range, rarely exceeding 1 teraamperage. Unlike most ballistic weapons, has a very high flux load when fired. Turrets mounted with this system have an extremely poor turn rate. Very effective weapon whose usefulness is limited by the low reactor power of ships that typically feature large ballistic weapon mounts. Slow but accurate, goated for destroying shields with great range. Very good for support ships as its slow fire rate and low damage to armor makes it a less than ideal choice for a main gun. Storm Needler fires multitude of kinetic projectiles in a tight arc, creating a withering hail of projectiles that easily overwhelms most shield generators. The GOAT. Is it as cost effective as Mark 9? No, but the fire rate and the sheer damage to shield it makes is absolutely goated, putting anti-shield DPS of the Mark 9 to shame. Hephaestus Assault Gun. A medium-range gun designed to punch through heavy armor. The raw damage output also enables it to overwhelm weaker shield emitters. A truly devastating weapon platform named for an archaic god of volcanoes. A typical turret mount features two L-89 barrels that take turns firing armored devastating rounds at 240 RPM, an electromagnetic ejector powered feed system and non-coolants allow the weapon to fire for extended periods of times. The shape charged shells have low muzzle velocity and great armor penetrating power. A rather common large explosive ballistic weapon. DPS choice for destroying armor, more so for larger single targets, as there's another option to deal with smaller threats. Hellbore Cannon. Huge cannon which fires slow moving plasma charge projectiles. Rounds are highly effective versus armor and obliterate any hull structure left underneath. A feared weapon platform rarely deployed due to the complexity involved in manufacturing a built-up barrel that can self-fire enormous high explosive shaped charged rounds. When such a shell impacts a target, the Newman effect causes the warhead to propel a jet of molten metal into the target's armor, vaporizing a small area, causing hull breaches, depressurization and extensive internal damage from this PAL. A great anti-armor damage per hit weapon, but its rate of fire is slow. It's single shot but its range is good and OP cost low. Still, one needs skill and patience to use this weapon effectively. I like both. Devastator Cannon. Essentially a rapid-fire capital-sized flak cannon, the Devastator was developed by the Domain Armada using generic parts in response to a rebellious world, which managed to acquire an extensive set of fighter LPCs. Anti-frigate and destroyer weapon, there's no wonder Mk1 is equipped with it. Hephaestus assault gun takes large targets, Devastator cannons take smaller ones, good for combating nanite swarms. If only AI could counter those well. Mjolnir Cannon. A medium-range cannon that delivers superior damage over time and also a significant EMP payload. A very advanced design, the Mjolnir is technically a magnetogravitic shell projectile, not a standard cannon. The microcapsulators within each shell are able to deliver enough energy to create a small-scale, localized singularity. The built-in gravity lens devastates all nearby matter and creates the dreaded electromagnetic pulse EMP effect, disabling the target's weapons and systems. Powerful weapon, the only energy ballistic weapon, costly weapon, but able to do everything. Invictuses like this one a lot. This weapon stays true to its namesake, a real hammer of gods, brings thunder down upon anyone hit by it. Truly the GOAT. Those are all ballistics so far. We surely will see more in the future. I would like a fragmentation one in the future, please make it happen, Alex. But we'll see. Men love ballistics, as do some women. Women love missiles, and some men do love them as well. Well, as there are many ballistics in Starsector, there are a lot of missiles as well. Some small, some average, and some large. Every missile has its fun. Hello, I'm the Steel Merchant. In this video, let's talk about missiles of Starsector. Let's go through descriptions of all the missiles. I will add my commentary after each description, be it lore, speculation, or simply what I think about the weapon. Please enjoy and subscribe, however only if you feel like it. Beginning of course will be the small missiles, and I will end with the large ones. Also remember, this isn't a tier list. What you find the best is the best. Also, all missiles have high explosive damage which works best against armor. However, some have kinetic energy and fragmentation damage. Let's begin with the Gorgon. The Gorgon was designed as a lightweight delivery system for an energy strike fired from unexpected attack vectors calculated to initiate beyond the range of the heaviest anticipated PD coverage. A solid DEM packing reliable burst attack power. A small missile which instead of exploding shoots a laser out. I don't use it much. A missile should be a missile, not some laser shooting wannabe drone. That's how I see it. Salamander homes in onto the target's engine and disables them with a powerful EMP burst. A combat-rated autoloader system ensures usefulness in protracted engagements. The Salamander missile is a specialized weapon with two design considerations. The first is an extremely advanced tracking targeting mechanism which enables it to home in on enemy engines, whilst avoiding all other potential impact points and point defense threats. The second is a special warhead design, which, instead of attempting to destroy the target with kinetic or explosive force, generates targeted electromagnetic fields of high magnitude. When such a field is created in the proximity of unshielded engines and hull components, it will quickly knock out all their electronics, rendering them useless until repaired. A small missile, an ass-slapping missile. It has unlimited ammo, costs only 3 OP points, so one may slap it in almost always. Annihilator Rocket Launcher fires a spread of unguided rockets that cover a wide arc, typically used to strip away enemy armor once shields are down. Medium to long range rockets launched from a small pod that fires 5 missiles per salvo in a narrow spread to improve the odds of hitting. Rockets are small and unguided, with extra space being taken by a larger warhead and improved propulsion systems, as well as thicker armor. Performs well against larger targets due to the higher chance of striking with multiple rockets. A rocket attack is often used as a screen before a torpedo strike to reduce the effectiveness of point defense system. Takes several seconds to reload after a salvo. Love the missile barrage. Small one but useful one, nothing more to add. Atropos class torpedo. Single like me. A single advanced guided torpedo. The payload is smaller than usual to make room for the advanced guidance package and maneuvering system's reaction mass. The Atropos torpedo is a large guided torpedo with an extended range. The AM catalyzed nuclear warhead, typically used in torpedo warheads, is missing here as bryonic interference from the detonator would foul the guidance systems. It is replaced by a smaller yet still potent chemical charge. This mount features only a single torpedo, a torpedo with good tracking, only homing torpedo in the game. It also has a double version, description of which is a rack of advanced guided torpedoes. The payload is smaller than usual to make room for the advanced guidance package and maneuvering system's reaction mass. The Atropos torpedo is a large guided torpedo with extended range. Each rack mounts 2 torpedoes, which can be fired separately, allowing strike captains maximum flexibility. The IM catalyzed nuclear warhead, typically used in torpedo warheads, is missing here as bryonic interference from the detonator would foul the guidance system. It is replaced by a smaller yet still potent chemical charge. So yes, indeed, most of the description is the same. Breach, a heavily armored and fast missile with good guidance and a small specialized anti-armor warhead. Anti-armor missile which always does damage to armor. I don't use it much in this small version. Hammer class torpedo. This dump fire rocket was in the sector pre-collapse due to the civilian applications discovered by asteroid miners. The go-to strike weapon of the desperately under-equipped. The hammer is most often employed by poor independent militas, pirates, and especially the Ludwig Path. This has led to the mildly blasphemous alternative name for the weapon, Lutz Hammer, a cheap ancient missile, one of the terrorist path's missile's favorites. It has a single variant which description I just read, double version has the same description. Harpoon, double. Medium range, high payload guided missile pod, devastating against ships with downed shields. An externally mounted pod replaces the more common missile racks and allows multiple missiles to be fired almost simultaneously. Oh, fuck, I can't read this word at all. An autoloader extracts, arms and primes the next salvo of missiles after a short wait. These medium-range missiles are identical to the ones fired from single or triple racks and are a great way to finish off a ship with downed shields. An excellent propulsion system delivers a large warhead to the target at sublight speeds, sacrificing maneuverability for speed and warhead size. The medium-range missile is one of the highest yield non-strike weapons employed in the sector. One hit is almost fatal to frigate-sized ships. Don't use this one. I mean, I just lied. I do, but I just spam it and forget about it. Harpoon, medium-range, high-payload guided missile rack, a great finisher versus ships with downed shields. 3-rack medium-range missiles, an excellent propulsion system, delivers a large warhead to the target at sublight speed, sacrificing maneuverability for speed and warhead size. The medium-range missile is one of the highest yield non-strike weapons employed in the sector. One hit is almost fatal to frigate-sized ships. This weapon features a firing rack that houses multiple missiles. A multiple missile version of Double Harpoon has the same description as the double one. Reaper class torpedo, a single unguided torpedo of devastating yield with a powerful onboard engine, the quintessential strike weapon. And here you see how dyslexia works. I can read quintessential, but I couldn't read what was the word again? Simultaneously. I can't fucking read it, but quintessential? Yeah, I can read it easily. Okay, let's continue. Sorry for this rant. A single Reaper torpedo is a large, self-propelled, armored unguided delivery system from an enriched crystallized nuclear warhead. The science behind the surprisingly compact detonator is poorly understood in this sector, though widely speculated to be based on physics classified as secret by domain authority. What is known is that 3 or 4 of those slipping through PD arcs are enough to destroy even the largest capital ships. True. GOAT.
That's what I'm talking about! That's why he's the MVP! That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
One shot, one kill, enough said. Most damaging missile or even weapon in the game. Goated, absolutely goated missile.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
Swarmer SRM launcher, a short-range guided missile launcher. The missiles are designed to intercept and destroy enemy fighters. Launches bursts of small missiles. A simple inferred system provides effective tracking, while chemical micro-thrusters provide exceptional maneuverability. Evolutionary targeting algorithms honed over centuries of real-world applications allow the missiles to lead the target. They rarely miss and are very hard to avoid. I like this missile. Small menu missiles that just follow the enemy quickly until they hit. Perfect, love it. Not most damaging, but it's good. It's good, I like them. Geyser. The Geyser SRM forces a cruel choice upon targeted vessels. Practically those with shallow flux pool. Raise shields and build excess flux while racked by Geyser's graviton beam, or drop shields and open oneself to a more direct attack. I read it as geyser, don't use it at all. A missile should be a missile, not some laser. That's my opinion. Sabot. Double. Fires a 12-stage spread of high-velocity kinetic penetrators when in range, heavy damage to shields and massive EMP damage when impacting on enemy hull or armor, difficult to stop with PD. Sabot class missiles are short-range, 2-stage KE weapons. A guided missile first stage projects a secondary assembly to within striking distance of a shield at target. The onboard targeting computer then ignites the propellant for KA penetrator. This sabot, as it is commonly called, is typically narrow, laterally stabilized projectile manufactured from an ultra-dense material such as depleted uranium. Excellent at bringing down enemy shields and causing an overload. Standard ship armor is spaced, and thus the sabot deals more manageable damage if shields are lowered in time to receive the impact on armor. This mount can only launch one missile at a time and carries a single replacement in combat. Rated magazines recesses into the hull. A great weapon, will always destroy shields, always overload ships. A small goat, I would say.
That's what I'm talking about! That's why he's the MVP! That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
Sabot SRM. The Sabot class missile is highly effective against shields, and its high velocity spread of kinetic projectiles can confuse point defense systems. Sabot class missiles are short-range 2-stage KE weapons. A guided missile first stage projects a secondary assembly to within striking distance of a shielded target. The onboard targeting computer then ignites the propellant of multiple KA penetrators. Those sabots, as they are commonly called, are typically narrow, laterally stabilized projectiles manufactured from an ultra-dense materials such as depleted uranium, excellent at bringing down enemy shields and causing an overload. Standard ship armor is spaced, and those the sabot is somewhat underwhelming if it actually gets through the shields. This weapon system features a firing rack that houses multiple missiles, fires a 12th stage spread of high velocity kinetic penetrators when in range, heavy damage to shields, a massive EMP damage when impacting on enemy hull or armor, difficult to stab with PD, a version of Sabot with more missiles, even more goated than the previous one. Now, onto the medium missiles. Dragonfire DEM torpedo, anticipating 2, even 3 moves ahead in the strike and riposte of combat system design. The Dragonfire was created to anticipate increasingly sophisticated anti-missile solutions. The concept is simple: use an enriched IM catalyzed nuclear warhead to pump a focused plasma beam, delivering destructive energy without worry of point defense interception. The results were spectacular. A DEM missile, one of the newer ones. I don't use it much. If used correctly, it can dish out some good damage. Gorgon pod. The Gorgon was designed as a lightweight delivery system for an energy strike fired from unexpected attack vectors calculated to initiate beyond the range of heaviest anticipated PD coverage. A solid DEM packaging reliable burst attack power. Bigger version of the small Gorgon. Like with the small one, I don't use it much. Pilum LRM launcher. A 2-stage missile suited for long-range support by backline combat ships. The second stage has a higher top speed, giving it a better chance of defeating point defense systems. A technologically mature weapon system, the Pilum class missile is the obvious choice for long-range strikes by cautious captains. The warhead consists of a device capable of causing spot failures in active shields, and an EMP generator to deliver a modest punch through those gaps. Neither device is practically effective due to the constraints imposed by the missile's outsized fuel tanks. A combat-rated autoloader system ensures continued, if modest, usefulness in protracted engagements. Missiles with EMP damage with good range, good for surprising high flux enemies, as alone they do low damage, but work great as an opener for other weapons to finish up an overloaded ship. Salamander pod homes in the target's engines and disables them with a powerful EMP burst. A combat-rated autoloader system ensures usefulness in protracted engagements. An externally mounted pod replaces the more common missile racks and allows 2 missiles to be fired almost simultaneously. An autoloader extracts arms and primes the next salvo or 2 missiles after a short wait. The Salamander missile is a specialized weapon with 2 design considerations. The first is an extremely advanced tracking targeting mechanism, which enables it to home in on enemy engines whilst avoiding all other potential impact points and point defense threats. The second is a special warhead design, which instead of attempting to destroy the target with kinetic or explosive force, generates targeted electromagnetic fields of high magnitude. When such a field is created in the proximity of unshielded engines and hull components, it will quickly knock out all their electronics, rendering them useless until repaired. A larger Salamander, a loving missile, now shoots 2 missiles instead of 1, most often a victim of good point defense systems. Annihilator rocket pod fires a swarm of unguided rockets that cover a wide area. External pod mounting allows more ammunition to be stored. Features the same medium to long range rockets found on smaller launchers. Rockets are unguided, with extra space being taken up by a larger warhead and improved propulsion systems, as well as thicker armor. Performs well against larger targets due to the higher chance of striking with multiple rockets. A rocket attack is often used as a screen before a torpedo strike to reduce the effectiveness of point defense systems. GOAT. Perfect for making pressure and for low skilled asses like me. I see an enemy, I click, many rockets fly, Perfect. Breach Pod. A heavily armored and fast missile with good guidance and a small, specialized anti-armor warhead. Bigger version of the smaller Breach. Works the same as the smaller version, won't say more about it. Harpoon Pod. Medium range, high payload, guided missile pod. Devastating against ships with downed shields. An externally mounted pod replaces the more common missile racks and allows multiple missiles to be fired almost simultaneously. An autoloader extracts, arms and primes the next salvo of missiles after a short wait. These medium range missiles are identical to the ones fired from single or triple racks and are a great way to finish off a ship with downed shields. An excellent propulsion system delivers a large warhead to the target at sublight speeds, sacrificing maneuverability for speed and warhead size. The medium-range missile is one of the highest yield non-strike weapons employed in the sector. One hit is almost fatal to frigate-sized ships. I like this one, good finisher weapon, however, I like to shoot it out like an idiot. I like blue missiles just flying like a snake towards my enemy and exploding. Jackhammer, no, not this one. No, neither this one, nor this one. This one here. This dumb... okay, that's insulting. This dumb fire rocket was ubiquitous in the sector pre-collapse due to civilian applications discovered by asteroid miners. The go-to strike weapon of the desperately under-equipped, the hammer is most often employed by poor independent militants, pirates and especially Ludic Path. This has led to the mildly blasphemous alternative name for the weapon, Luke's Hammer. Luke's Hammer indeed. Although not as powerful as Reaper's, it is still strong. Many missiles firing forward in one cone make it easy to hit something or miss everything. I like this weapon a lot. This description was the same as the one of the smaller version, when the largest weapon will have the same description. Proximity Charge Launcher. Deploys low velocity proximity charges with an impressive blast radius, especially devastating against fighters but also effective versus armored targets. This weapon may seem useless, but only at first sight. Big Brain Energy Guy showed me how to use it. You slap it on a legion, you rush the enemy and just detonate them constantly. This way you can destroy a Ziggy with a solo legion, goated if it's in goated hands. Typhoon Reaper Launcher. This simple but powerful weapon system consists of launch tube and magazine, usually carrying 5 standard Reaper class torpedoes. GOAT. Perfect for Hyperions, perfect for teleporting and slapping asses of enemy ships. A Reaper indeed, one slap, one kill. Perfect. Another Geyser Pod. The Geyser SRM forces a cruel choice upon targeted vessels, practically those with shallow flux pool, raise shields and build excess flux while raked by geysers, graviton beam, or drop shields and open oneself to a more direct attack. A bigger version of the geyser, or the geyser as I will call it. Sabot SRM Pod, another Sabot missile. The Sabot class missile is highly effective against shields, and its high velocity spread of kinetic projectiles can confuse point defense systems. The pod replaces the more common missile racks and allows 2 missiles to be fired almost simultaneously. An autoloader extracts, arms and primes the next salvo of 2 missiles after a short delay. Sabot class missiles are short-range 2-stage KE weapons. A guided missile first stage projects a secondary assembly to within striking distance of a shield target. The onboard targeting computer then ignites the propellant of multiple KE penetrators. These sabots, as they are commonly called, are typically narrow, laterally stabilized projectiles manufactured from an ultra-dense material such as depleted uranium, excellent at bringing down enemy shields and causing an overload. Standard ship armor is spaced and thus the sabot is somewhat underwhelming if it actually gets through the shields. Anti-shield weapon, actually pretty strong in its role. If somehow you like anti-shield weapons, this missile will do the job. Good, I like it. Now, onto the large size the player actually care about. Dragonfire Torpedo Pod. The Dragonfire was created to anticipate increasingly sophisticated anti-missile solutions. You know, the description is the fucking same as the smaller ones. So what will I say about the large one? Although I don't use it much. It has really surprised me when I used it the first time. I actually played a modded game and I thought that this was a modded weapon for a moment. Because I shoot it, it shoots out the lasers which target the enemy and then fires a big ass laser beam. It's basically a long-range Reaper. I still prefer the OG Reaper instead. Hydra Launcher. The Hydra weapon system launches a clutch of semi-independently maneuverable DEM platforms from a single device. These submunitions maneuver to flank the primary shield of the target, assumed to be directed toward the threat of the attacker, and only then unleash beamfire. Another weapon shooting missiles which shoot energy beams at the enemy. This one shoots many small missiles which shoot many small beams. Largest type of Gorgon. I don't use it much, but it's actually way stronger than I thought it would be. So if you want to use it and if you like it, I understand. Locust SRM. Before I read the description, it's absolutely...
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
A large short-range guided missile system designed to launch large numbers of projectiles to overwhelm and cripple enemy fighter squadrons in a single salvo. The Locust can be used against larger targets, but will have little relative effect unless shields and armor are already breached. The Locust launches bursts of 20 small missiles per salvo. Robust, low-powered individual tracking systems are coordinated by a disturbed swarm intelligence system to enable tracking of targets, while chemical microthrusters provide maneuverability for a short time. Tried and true targeting algorithms based on old standby swarmer missile systems allow Locust to miss only rarely. The Locust has rightly earned a place in the nightmares of fighter pilots. Again, absolute gold. Excellent tracking, excellent damage against hull, very high ammo count. I think it doesn't shoot 20 missiles, it shoots 30 if I remember correctly, but don't take my word for granted. Good for players, good for the AI. If you don't know what missile to put in the large slot, Locust is always a good choice, always a good choice. It can be a point defense, it can be damage, good against fighters, you can use it against the threatened nanites, absolutely goated. Pilum Catapult, a two-stage missile suited for long-range support by backline combat ships. Ships? What the fuck? The second stage has a higher top speed, giving it a better chance of defeating point defense systems. The catapult launch systems produces a higher concentration of fire. Infinite ammo missile, the largest one. If you want endless missiles, take it. I feel all other weapons are a better option. It has long range and it isn't terrible. However, there are simply better options for point defense, for destroying armor, for damage. But if you want to constantly shoot missiles, then Pilum is the best choice. Cyclone Repeater Launcher. Dual launcher system capable of launching a torpedo barrage, devastating to slow ships that can't move out of the way in time. A very large weapon system, the Cyclone class launcher is listed as having 2 large torpedo tubes with internal magazine that carries 20 Reaper torpedoes. The fire control system is linked and fires 2 Reaper class torpedoes in tandem. An automatic loader prepares the next salvo from the magazine in seconds. Largest of the goated Reapers, it's very strong, strongest damage missile weapon, yet I don't use it much. I use the medium Reaper the most because I use it on Hyperions. Still, nothing bad can be said about this weapon, just don't miss like me. Hammer Barrage. So, this is the largest type of the hammers. Description, like the smaller jackhammer, it's the same. Basically, it's just the bigger version. Strong, it's good, it's good. An older missile weapon that's still doing its job. Absolutely goated as well. Hurricane MIRV Launcher. Launches a missile that splits into multiple warheads on closing the target, especially devastating to enemies with their shields down. Hurricane turrets are late expansion epoch weapon designed to launch a self-propelled multiple missile delivery projector pod. a targeting computer programs the pod with a hit solution as it is released. This swarm of small missiles released is dangerous to all ship types. Missiles feature a shaped charge warhead, making them more effective versus enemy armor. Those characteristics make the Hurricane a kill weapon, usually only fired by gunnery officers with orders to destroy their crippled targets utterly. Reclubs weapon like the hammers, similar to hammers, but instead of going outward, they flank and rush inward. More missiles are shot from them than from hammers, but do less damage. This doesn't mean that they are worse, they are still strong. Squall MLRS, medium-range anti-shield missiles intended to be used in opening round of combat encounter to disable the shields of an unwary opponent, opening up an opportunity for high damage anti-armor projectiles to be deployed in the immediate aftermath of Squall salvo. Interchangeable missile pods were designed to allow for ease of rapid reloading of the impressive 20-shot Squall salvo, but the high mass of the pods and flicky mechanics of the missile autoloaders make the process unwieldy, and the timing falls somewhat below the original Domain Armada specifications. Nonetheless, the Squall is a terrifying weapon system when deployed against shield-reliant combatants, as it forces a captain with insufficient point defense systems to deactivate their shields or submit to high shield flukes, which may lead to an overload. The weapon of AA ships, so Atlases, Mk2s and Astrals, great support weapon thanks to long range and 20 missiles it shoots. It constantly pressures enemy shields. It won't destroy ships by itself, but it will crack open shields of all ships, if not used against point defense strongholds like the Anubis. Missiles, I feel, take the most skill to use well. Ballistics and energy weapon can be shot constantly. Missiles on most ships cannot. One must use them sparingly and use them well. That's why this is my least favorite type of weapon in Starsector. Yet I cannot say anything against it. Missiles are strong, and it's a big weakness of mine that I suck with them. Ballistics missiles, both needed for things, and those need energy. Lots of energy. Starsector has a lot of energy, be it in form of fuel, supplies, volatiles, food, energy for the people. Energy can be used for many things. With humans being absolutely crazy, we of course use it to convince one another that we are correct in different matters with a show of brutal force. Hello, I'm the Steel Merchant. Let's talk about the weapons of Starsector. Now, let's talk about energy weapons. I will read the description of every common energy weapon in the game, then add a little bit of my own commentary, be it lore, my thoughts on the weapon, or other chaotic things that comes to my mind. Let's go. Most energy weapons are, well, energy, if it comes to their form of damage. 5 of them, however, aren't energy, if it comes to their damage type. Still, of course, those are energy weapons. Small or little energy weapons. Let's go. Antimatter Blaster, a slow firing, extremely high damage energy gun meant to pose a threat to the largest ships in the sector, can only be used at close range. The Antimatter Blaster is one of the most complicated weapons in existence. Antimatter is stored in shells that have their own powered magnetic field projector built into the casing. In order to generate a field strong enough to contain and eject the antimatter, typically Postrons, the built-in captators must spend a considerable time charging. Once a magnetic field of at the required strength is generated, the shell is breached and the antimatter is ejected toward the target, its main propellant being the Lorentz force around the muzzle of the blaster, extremely effective versus all targets. Weapon of extreme damage for its size, however, like the description says, it has short range, useful for specialized builds. Burst PD laser features a built-in capacitor that lets the weapon fire several bursts in quick succession if allowed to fully recharge. Excellent versus missiles and fighters. The burst point defense laser is a further refinement of standard PD beam weapons. The Q-switch gain medium is pulse pumped, ensuring that the power delivered to the titanium doped Sapphire gain medium medium peaks at predefined interval. The result is a weapon that fires once every couple of seconds and is extremely effective for its small size. Power consumption is small enough that even some fightercraft power cores can handle the firing load. Like its name suggests, it's a point defense weapon, useful in its role as it does its job if it comes to destroying fighters and missiles. However, it's useless for anything else. Ion Cannon, a medium-range energy cannon that delivers an electromagnetic pulse, EMP, and can quickly disable enemy systems' engines. The ion cannon's non-standard gain medium projects highly ionized bryonic matter in a coherent bolt. When the ion bolt compacts the target, it creates a localized magnetic field which plays havoc with all manner of electronics, including sensors, fuel igniters, targeting modules, computers, etc. The weapon also fuses certain circuits and can mildly strain shield generators, thus it does negligible amount of permanent damage, rarely the only weapon type fitted on ships. A small version of Ion Pulsar. Honestly, I cannot say much about it, it's just useful overall. However, because of its small size, it's useful only against frigates and destroyers. IR Pulse Laser, a flux-efficient, inferred pulse laser which fires bolts of energy at medium range, an excellent weapon for prolonged bursts of fire. This weapon is identical to most combat lasers with a carbon dioxide gain medium fired at 11 microns. Q-switched power supply permits ablation of the target, which makes the weapon much more effective than conventional beam, at the cost of much higher power consumption, most often used on fighters or frigates where the low range of the weapon can be offset by the maneuverability of the fitted craft. If it comes to this IR Pulse Laser, I forgot it exists, honestly, I'm sorry to you fans of this weapon. LRPD Laser, medium range energy weapon effective at neutralizing missile and fighter threats, can be fired for extended periods but the damage is subpar. An additional lens assembly eliminates self-diffusing particles from a standard carbon dioxide beam fired at wavelength of 11 microns. The extended range permits the otherwise low voltage to have a great impact on the targets, particularly useful in destroying missiles headed for a shielded target. A standard point defense laser generally doesn't have the range to extend far enough past the defensive shield of the ship it is supposed to protect. Another PD weapon, cheaper than burst PD laser with lots of range. Mining Laser, cheap utility laser that is hardwired for missile and fighter defense. This configuration gives it longer range than most point defense weapons. A MK1 mining laser features a fluoride gas gain medium refitted for combat. The micro-asteroid targeting package has been repurposed to track and target incoming missiles, mostly useless for anything larger or armored targets, as a built-in 670 nm tracker beam. Mining Laser is a PD weapon, cheapest PD in the game, one of the cheapest weapons at only one ordnance point. A player can always slap one if there is need for some PD. PD Laser, small laser designed for missile and fighter defense with great tracking capability, decent damage and very short range. Simplicity, relativity and low flux cost characterize this ubiquitous point defense weapon. The laser is built around a carbon dioxide gain medium combined with a short range marker beam. A simple one-stage lens assembly with no moving parts permits the weapon to operate for extended periods without maintenance procedures. Low damage has prompted the creation of the Pray It's a Dude Laser backronym. Like the name says, it's a PD laser, has short range, costs 4 points, just does its job the best it can. Tactical Laser, standard combat laser useful at medium to long ranges. A very flexible weapon, especially effective against unshielded targets. The workhorse of beam weapons in the sector, the tactical laser is often used because of its low maintenance cost, versatility and ease of construction. Features a standard carbon dioxide gain medium, 530 nm marker beam and 3 lens assemblies, a good support weapon for small craft, especially in prolonged engagements. Like 80% of small energy weapons, it's a PD weapon. A range of thousands and 4 points to deploy, nothing more to say. Now, onto the medium energy, let's go! It is in this size of weapons that non-energy damage energy weapons all exist with one exception being in the large size. IR Auto Lens, an efficient long-range weapon with high burst damage, extremely effective against fighters and in the right circumstances against exposed hull, almost entirely ineffective against shields, and features an interlock to prevent anti-shield use unless fully charged. Low sustained damage output due to needing to regenerate charges. The only fragmentation energy weapon can be surprisingly powerful, however it does most damage to hull as per its damage type. Graviton Beam, an atypical beam weapon which is highly effective versus shields, excellent range, but the damage per second versus armor is subpar. The core of this weapon is a brain rift generator which follows a 500 nm tracker beam. The beam prepares local spells time for the rift in addition to providing targeting feedback to manual operators. Once the rift is open, higher brain gravitons enter local space time en masse and persist up to 170 seconds. Damage to the target is caused by the resulting intense gravitic shear. Those higher brain gravitons easily overwhelms standard energy fields. One of the two kinetic weapons, a suppression weapon, can be very useful in support roles. Kinetic Blaster. Long-range readings provided by Hegi Intelligence Asset suggest weapon system integrates elements of Super Blaster technology to harness previously unutilized anti-shield effect. Native Asconian physicist establishment depleted post-opus, not considered capable of such a breakthrough. Rep Hegi Int 3812 conclude with near certainty Tri-Tychon technical assistance to Syndran mutiny. Classified report to the High Hegemon. An interesting weapon lore-wise, a weapon with clear Omega influence made by Syndran dictated with heavy assistance from Tri-Tychon. It is not considered to be possible for Opus to have created such a weapon. I disagree. We know Opus was journeying into the abyss. I think if Asconian Crisis didn't happen, Opus would have made this weapon with Tri-Tychon assistance, or rather the Omega assistance. Mining Blaster, the miner's best friend. This weapon can deliver a burst of pulverizing bolts of energy at close range. The ore scanner is repurposed as an interlock to prevent excessive use against shields when the weapon is in auto-fire mode. Explosive weapon. The more of it there is, the better it is. One mining blaster ain't going to do much. Heavy Blaster fires bolts of energy at enemy targets with high damage and flux cost. The Heavy Blaster is one of the most damaging weapons for its size. A reliable energy weapon, the Heavy Blaster uses improved high energy gas ammunition which, when activated by strong electric current, is converted into plasma. A guiding electron is fired along the axis of traversal beforehand, ensuring that the uncontained plasma bolt will travel in the intended direction, thanks to physics that are no longer well understood. A strong energy weapon, standard weapon if it comes to damage dealing, useful and strong. Heavy Burst Laser, a heavier version of the PD Burst Laser. This weapon features a longer range and a greater number of built-in capacitors for higher upfront damage. An often underestimated weapon, the Heavy Burst Laser is actually one of the best performing beam weapons available in the sector. A cursory examination of the gain medium and lens housing is often enough to assure even the most skeptical inspector that the technology housed within is some of the best domain had to offer. The physics that create the burst effect are not understood by the highest echelons of the Hegemonist Science Council or even the Tri-Tychon Science Corps. It is theorized that a Q-switch multi-phased beam would be shot through a quantum filter which would ensure entanglement and create a burst effect. This may be an explanation for triple Dren's housing, originally thought to be a fail-safe system, but those are just theories. In combat, the Heavy Burst Laser is favored by those that want to be assured that their point defense perimeter is state of the art, a weapon that finds itself useless. And not because it's bad, but there are simply better options. Mid-sized weapons have better options, and if it comes to PD, small weapons are better and are many more, and Paladin is simply much better of a PD weapon. Ion Beam, a long-range support weapon. The Ion Beam is able to fire more and more destructive EMP arcs through shields as the target's hard flux level go up, at a hefty flux cost for the firing ship. After delivery of the Ion Pulsar to the Chernobog Proving Grounds, firing tests and tactical simulation concluded that the weapon system was unsuitable for the role described in the original bid won by Bihali Exospace. A heavy penalty was deducted from the delivery fee, and engineers went back to produce a charged energy weapon with sufficient range to be mounted on combat platforms expected to be placed behind rather than in front line of the combat. 6 months later they delivered the Ion Beam. The long-range Ion Beam deploys a cutting-edge gain pattern best understood as a diff-track geometry projected into normal space. Difficult to manufacture, this unique construction nonetheless enables long-range projections of highly ionized bryonic matter in a coherent beam, known to play havoc with all manner of electronics, including sensors, fuel igniters, targeting modules, computers, etc. Though it does negligible permanent damage operated against a high flux target, the Ion Beam may occasionally build up a charge that may arc past the shields entirely, as cascading buildup of charge particles interferes with the regular shield diffusion cycle. A small Typhon lance, and the worst one at that. I don't use this weapon at all. Ion Pulsar, built for improved firepower. This enhanced version of the ion cannon delivers an EMP which can quickly disable enemy systems and engines, dealing heavy damage and arcing to modules near points of impact. The Ion Pulsar's non-standard gain medium projects highly ionized bryonic matter in coherent bolt via one of 3 rotating linear accelerator apparati. When the ion bolt impacts the target, it creates a localized magnetic field which plays havoc with all manner of electronics, including sensors, fuel igniters, targeting modules, computers, and more. The weapon also fuses certain circuits and can mindlessly strain shield generators, thus it does negligible amount of permanent damage. Probably the only weapon type fitted on ships, the GOAT. Perfect for Hyperions, absolute perfection combined with Reapers, larger version of Ion Cannon everyone forgets about because of how goated this weapon is. Phase Lance, a short range, short duration beam that causes heavy damage in a burst, capable against armor as far as beam weapons go. This weapon is at base simply a laser beam with a triple sapphire gain medium to ensure that highest possible weaponized wavelengths. The photons are fired through a hyperdimensional filter which outputs an energy beam that exists partially in p-space. The physics of the filter are not properly understood, and in laboratory settings the p-space components of a beam exceeding 666 gigawatts will sometimes flicker, as if blocked. Weapon mounts never use such high energy levels to ensure relativity. Short range, smaller Typhon lance, I don't see much use for it. A weapon which works with p-space shenanigans. A lot of reasons why not to use it, for we know end space is really close to p-space and it's haunted. In the future I don't want to see what's in the p-space. Pulse laser fires repeating bolts of energy, favoring the medium range combatant that has the flux reserves and wants to put constant pressure on the enemy. Designed to fire pulses rather than a constant beam, with a total power output exceeding constant operation designs. As with continuous lasers, a carbon dioxide gain medium is fed energy and produces photons at 11 microns wavelengths. Greater energy delivered in shorter time means that the target is ablated, a process that causes the vaporization of small surfaces sections. The resulting shock waves do additional structural damage. Useful weapon, all-around powerful weapon, although I prefer the goated Ion Pulsar. Now onto the large energy, let's fucking go. High intensivity laser, or high IL for short, an extremely long range, high damage energy beam cannon, often mounted on support cruisers with great effect. The high intensivity laser is a powerhouse weapon that has energy rating well beyond the gigawatt range. To produce such power for an extended period of time. The design relies on built-in fusion power core. This core still requires an external actuator, a roll filled by a ship reactor when firing commences. 3 meticulously calibrated lens assemblies guide photons within the ignition unit, requiring seconds to build up energy necessary to maintain a coherent beam. The gain medium is a 2-stage gas solid which is Q-switched and provides a potent particle stream that can obliterate unsuspecting targets in seconds. The extreme range at which targets can be tracked and destroyed makes the high HIL excel in safely providing close support to friendly ships that are engaged in a melee. It is favored weapon of captains that can manage the flux cost associated with operating it. Perfect support weapon. The only different energy weapon if it comes to damage type in the large size. Explosives damage is the damage of this weapon, extremely weak against shields because of its damage type, needs kinetic support but it cuts through armor like butter. Autopulse laser, numerous built-in captivators are the core of this extremely efficient yet potent energy weapon. This short description doesn't do this weapon justice, however I think that's because of lack of crazy interesting descriptions. This weapon isn't something Omega based after all, or P-Space filled shenanigans weapon. This weapon I think is the peak of human design if it comes to energy weapons. Put extended magazines on this bad boy and watch it rip. Lord forbid you meet a Radiant with 5 of those. Giga Cannon. High-ranking naval officers on Ultradyne at Konya Combined Board of Directors rammed through large-scale IM projector weapon development despite objections of engineering grid. Project allegedly initiated at personal behest of so-called executor traitor Andrada. Hack Inc. assets report test firing displays dramatic power output, but weapon system integration projected to reduce enemy warfighting capability in fleet action due to doctrinal inefficiency. Recommended no sabotage operation. Classified report to the High Hegemon. Yes, Commissar, I understand. Glorious weapon made by the Syndron Dictat. Great leader Philip Andrada, the supreme executor, sees this weapon as a manifestation of his glory. This means this weapon is goated. Something more, Commissar? Oh yes, of course. Hegemonist lies are pathetic. This weapon increases warfighting capability. Paladin PD system, a collection of smaller lasers mounted together on a rotating pod with a built-in capacitator allowing extremely high burst damage versus fighters and missiles. The Paladin is a military-grade PD system that is usually only deployed on capital ships due to its high production and flux cost, can detect and destroy incoming strike weapons and enemy fighters that have penetrated the capital ship defensive escort screen. A combination of an autonomous AI core for targeting and 5 separate carbon dioxide lasers make this weapon exceptionally effective in point defense. A dedicated rotator power supply makes target tracking almost instantaneous. The prohibitive energy requirement usually means that the weapon is only activated for 4 seconds at a time, but that is usually enough to deal with any PD threat. Ultimate PD weapon. There ain't a better weapon than this if it comes to PD. Anubis is made for this weapon and is absolutely goated. Can shoot over allies. Once it was a useless weapon, now one of the best. Plasma cannon. Usually found mounted on large capital ships. Produces a ruinous amount of damage that cannot be withstood by ships' defenses for long. A plasma cannon is a large, arcane weapon which is difficult to manufacture and maintain. Those captains who can afford to do so are rewarded with one of the most devastating weapons platforms employed in the sector. Plasma cannons are related to graviton and phase beams, in that they use the properties of brain physics to deliver their payloads. A plasma cannon shell is a microfusion bomb which uses gravitic and baryonic lens to focus its energy inward. The resulting explosion creates plasma which is contained by a temporary mini-universe anomaly, while magnetic drivers mounted on the forward pylons accelerate it toward the target. The containment field lasts only a couple of seconds, which is usually enough for the anomaly to reach a target. If the convex hull of the field is not breached by ordinary matter energy delivering at least 9 Chi-N, the higher brain, will absorb the destructive plasma and it will vanish from our dimension forever. Weapon for larger ships. Weapon with most OP cost in the game. Great powerful weapon. Typhon Lance, a burst operated beam that delivers a devastating amount of damage with cascading EMP component. The EMP arcs have a chance to bypass shields. The EMP arcs have a chance to pass through shields based on the target's hard flux level. A weapon so rare and powerful that it has achieved mythical status in this sector. The Typhon Lance uses core technology based on the principles of experimental FTL communication system prototype, but with a twist. Instead of using hyperdimensional properties of the Typhon Practical for communication and brain manipulation, and anti-plasma generators create a charged Typhon stream that travels in hyperspace. Minimum energy requirements are staggering, and this amount of power can only be generated for a few seconds by the largest power capacitors, which are housed within the weapon system. Unlike the beams fired from normal beam weapons, the Typhon stream is not lensed or altered in any way. In fact, once the initial Typhon marker is activated, the reaction takes on a life of its own, rapidly consuming the power stored in the capacitors and unleashing destruction. When normal space is exposed to such high levels of anti-plasma, a combined electromagnetic, gravitic and thermal cavitation effect shreds anything that stands in its way, while also severely damaging nearby electronic equipment. I haven't met an enemy a Typhon Lance couldn't defeat. Great Starsector, upon defeating a shrouded dweller incursion. Goated weapon. Beam of Death, power word kill of Starsector. Love it. Slander of this weapon ain't allowed. Thermal Pulse Cannon, a bulky energy weapon from the early epoch. The TPC is built directly into the Onslaught's hull and provides overwhelming firepower. Designed before modular energy weapons were a reality, this weapon was coded into the Onslaught's blueprint because no other ship was large enough or had reactors capable of generating the requisite power. Even though it's outperformed by some of the later epoch modular designs, the Thermal Pulse Cannon remains an integral part of the Onslaught answer now. Not all energy weapons are new, this one is ancient, it came to be with the Onslaughts. So this weapon is much older than any other energy weapon. I don't have any opinion on it. However, the Onslaught wouldn't be what it is without it. Energy weapons. High tech of weapons. That's why some love them and some hate them. On which side are you? Which are your favorites? Please tell me in the comments. Now, thank you for watching. Like if you liked, dislike if you disliked, subscribe if you feel like it.